My name is Maria Barnes, for those of you who don't know me, although I think most people online so far look familiar. I appear as Juan Soto, but he's our head, our organization head, and I am the chapter president for Access Lunchtime. Today's speaker is also one of our chapter heads. He heads the Eastern Time group, which meets in the morning. I think it's 9 a.m. Eastern Time once a month. And this is Dale Fye. And Dale is the owner of Developing Solutions, LLC. And today he's going to talk, as you can see, about the Access Shortcut tool. So if you want to expand on anything else about yourself, Dale, feel free to. I see maybe that's next slide, looking ahead. But with that, take it away. If any of the rest of you have questions or anything, feel free to put those in the chat, and then I'll interrupt Dale if we need to. I will probably have a QA time later where you can unmute yourself and ask questions directly. All right.
Thank you, Maria. As Maria said, I'm the owner of Developing Solutions, LLC. I was a Microsoft Access MVP from 2013 through 16. And my website is listed there. Our discussion today is about the Access Shortcut tool, but I kind of want to get into that a little bit and talk a little bit about what a shortcut tool is, or a shortcut menu is, and discuss how you can actually create your own and what caused me to create the shortcut tool. So technically a shortcut menu is a member of the CommandBars collection. I know some of you have been around since before 2007. In 2003 and earlier versions, we didn't have the ribbon. We had a menu bar and shortcut tools. And the menu bar ran across, well, the top generally of the application, but you could put it in other locations. And then you had shortcut menus that would pop up wherever you were. Additionally, shortcut menus obviously are an integral part of every Office application. So I personally like to include them in my application. They save space and those types of things. So I like to include them in my applications. Access has approximately 200 shortcut menus built into it. I mean, we'll get to that, and I'll show you once we get into the shortcut tool what some of those are and how you can figure out what those menus are. And although the menus that we talked about in 2003 have been removed and be replaced by the ribbon, shortcut menus still exist and are very useful. They are, however, rather difficult to create without some additional tools. So just a couple of pieces of information you might want to know. How do you find out how many command bars there are in an application? Well, it's a really simple command. You can type in the immediate window, and regardless of what application you're in, whether it's Access, Excel, Word, as long as you're in the VBID and the immediate window, you can type some of these and get the answer to those things. What are they? So you can do all of this as a one-line command in the immediate window, or you can throw that into a subroutine and see what they all are. But that tells you what the names of the command bars are. It doesn't tell you what's in them or what they apply to. To find out what's in a particular command bar, you need to do something more like this, which was basically enumerate all of the controls that are within that command bar. Now, from that perspective, the shortcut menus or command bars are a lot like a form in that sense, is that they're an access object, and they have a caption property, and they have controls and those controls have IDs, they have pictures, they have a number of other properties, which are not very well enumerated in any book that I've read. Even the Access Developers Handbook doesn't go into them in very much depth. So I had to spend a lot of time digging around to find what I was looking for when I was developing my own command bars. So how do you display a command bar? Well, there's a couple ways. Obviously, the built-in command bars are inherent to Access. So when you click like on a form header or a form title row or on a record selector or in a cell, the built-in command bars automatically fire. Unless, of course, you're in the runtime environment. If you build your applications and deploy them in the runtime environment, none of the built-in command bars will function in a runtime environment. So this is another great opportunity, a great way to resolve that and still have shortcut menus in your application, because you can set those command bars menus within your application, but you just cannot use the built-in command bars or the shortcut menus. Just a point of interest, some shortcut menus are context sensitive, so depending on where you are in your application, you may or may not have items enabled, and in some cases they'll actually hide the items in the command bar. For example, the second shortcut menu on this page actually has like 75 different controls in that command bar, but most of them, whenever I took that snapshot, I don't remember where I was, probably in a control on a subform or in a data sheet. And when I took that snapshot, those are the only few that were visible, but there were probably 75 or more controls in the actual command bar itself. So creating your own shortcut menus. Like I said, it can be a pain in the butt. You've got to understand the command bar object and the various properties of the command bar object and the command bar controls object. You need to make sure you have the Microsoft Office object library, whatever the current version is for whatever you're designing in. And then once you've got that object library referenced in your application, then you can use the declarations using the constants. Otherwise, you just need to define those as objects, and then you won't be able to use IntelliSense if you're not using early binding. For that reason, I usually use early binding whenever I develop, and then generally, after I get my development done, I will switch over to late binding. So, to define a command bar, you have to add the command bar to the collection. It's got a name. It has a position. The position is relative to other command bars in the application. The menu bar is true false, but the default is false here. And since we no longer have menu bars, I just thought I'd just leave that blank whenever I do it. And temporary is a feature that allows you to create a command bar that's specific to a particular instance of the application, in which case, every time you load the application, you would need to run the code that creates that command bar. That was the way I was doing things originally a long time ago. And eventually I realized that was kind of stupid, because I didn't need to do that. I could create the command bars and they would stay resident in that database as long as I didn't delete them. And that way I didn't have to recreate them each time. And in fact, I could actually copy them from one application to another using the external data process of importing data, importing stuff from another application. When you click on the options, one of the options will be shortcut tools or command bars. I can't remember the term for it in that dialog, but that's an option for importing. So you can do that if you save those command bars in other applications.
Hey, Dale, we have a question which might be appropriate to answer now rather than the end. One of the questions is, or a question is, what's the difference again between early and late binding?
Okay, early binding means that you declare, let me pull up Access real quick for you. We'll pull up Access. It looks like I've got 2 copies of it running. So early binding, with early binding, it means that you define a reference to a particular object library or DLL, whichever, using the tool references option here. And for this case, I've got the Access database. I don't in this particular sample, I don't have any others. But if I wanted to do like a Microsoft, I don't think I've got Microsoft Office in here. Office. Maybe I do. Access. Oh yeah, there's the well, that's the database engine. So anyway, so when you let's just use an example of it. Let's use Excel as an example. That's an easy one. Okay, if I add Excel to my references, then I can create a module, and I can reference and here, instead of declaring an object, I can say I want to get an Excel object. So basically, I guess I don't want to do a sub, do I? So here, with this function, I'm going to basically return an Excel object to whatever calls this function, get Excel. And for this particular case, I'm going to make it real simple. I'm going to do brain cramp here.
Nothing like putting me on the spot here, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you do this, now if I go down here, I can actually do this. I can just do can't create object. And do I have Excel open? I do not have Excel open. Create. So that's it. I need to do a create object in this case. Usually I would put an error handler in here, which would handle that error. Try this again. Okay, and down here, all I have to do now is, like I say, Excel.visible, and it's opened up Excel for me. The downside of using early binding is that if you have multiple users running your application and they're using different versions of the application, doing it this way can create problems unless you're developing in the lowest common denominator of the application. So if you're developing in Access 2007, chances are you're going to meet everybody's requirements, and when they run the application, Access will automatically renew this reference from Excel 12 to 14 or 15 or whatever the current version you're running is. But if you develop in like 2016 and you have a user that's running 2013, when they try to run this, this is going to generate an error because Access is unable to, for whatever reason, go backwards and find the earlier version of the object library that you're referencing. So that'll generate an error. Instead of doing early binding, if I remove that, now when I try to compile this, I'm going to get an error. So what I have to do is, instead of using the Excel application in the declaration statement, I have to declare it as an object. And then I can run it, although in this case I don't need to create the object, I can do a get object because I already have Excel open, at least I think I do. No, I closed it, so we'll go back to create object. And now when I come down here and run it, I still have the ability to do that. The downside of late binding is that for any constants that you use, if you're referring to the Excel down or Excel left or Excel right, or any constants that are associated with Excel, you have to actually declare those in your application. So the good news about early binding is that it gives you IntelliSense in design mode. The bad news is that if you have people who might be using your application and are using an earlier version of Office or of Access in particular, it'll raise errors in their system, etc. So there, I'll leave that for now. Okay, so we got rid of that. Okay, going back over here. All right. So my previous slide showed how to add command bars to the command bar collection. Then the next step is you have to add a control, and the controls have types that you can have buttons and edit controls. You can have drop downs. You can have pop-ups, which are basically the little, if we do this, if we click in here, we don't get one here. But a pop-up control is one that gives you the indent. So you click on the arrow and it drops down the next level menu below it. And then there's a number of other parameters in here that you can provide, properties here that you can fill in. The on action property basically defines what will get done when you click on that option or you select that option in your command bar. Let's see, and this kind of goes on and talks about this. The reason I threw these slides in here is because I wanted to, I'll put them in the, out on the website so you can download those later if you're interested. Ultimately, what a simple menu looks like in code looks like this. This has got defines a command bar. There's a control there that's the multi-page control. There's a control there that's the print control. Here's another one, export. The export is that type is the pop-up. So under the export, there's a sub option, which is export to PDF. I stripped out a couple of the other options in this particular example. The send to option, this particular, it also has a pop out, and I stripped everything except the send as mail recipient with attachment. And then there's finally a close button. And this is basically a sample of a menu that I use on my reports. Okay, so I have a few comments about built-in command bars. Like I said, there's over 200 of them. When I first started writing code in Access, I generally just disabled the command bars or the shortcut menus on most of my forms and most of my reports because I didn't like showing users the exhaustive list of options that they had, which always included design. I never wanted them to be able to mess with my forms, so the easiest way to deal with that was to simply disable those menus. And you do that in Access. You can do that simply by going to your form, right-clicking, and saying Shortcut Menu No. But what that does is that turns off all your shortcut menus. Now you no longer have a shortcut menu. When you open this form, you no longer, let me do it this way. When you open this form, you no longer have a shortcut menu when you click in here. You no longer have a shortcut menu when you click on the form header. You no longer have a shortcut menu when you click on the record selector. So, my concern was, well, if I turn all those off, how do I still use the functionality of the shortcut menu? So that's when I started doing some digging. I talked to a couple of other Access MVPs who were upset, who like me, enjoyed using the shortcut menus that were built into 2003. Actually, there was a tool in 2003 which helped you build shortcut menus. It was part of like the quick access tool. If you come in here and do more commands, there was a feature in that pop-up, wherever it is here. Eventually it should come up. There was a feature in here which allowed you to create your own shortcut menus. When they put out 2007 and with the first set of ribbons, they did away with that tool. So a couple of us that were still using it at the time, we wanted to persist in using shortcut menus, and the only way to do that was to either go back to 2003, create your menu there, and then import it into your 2007 application, or you could write the code like in the sample code that I ran there a few minutes ago. So, like I said before, the built-in command bars are disabled at runtime, which is a huge disadvantage in the runtime environment. Excuse me. So if you're creating an ACCDR, you cannot use that. The other issue is, like I said, there's over 200 command bars in Access. Figuring out which one you're looking at can be a real challenge. And trying to decide, okay, because like here I've listed 5 of the ones that are related to data sheets. And then the last thing you can do is you can manipulate the built-in command bars. You can turn them off. I mean, you can disable them, in which case they won't display when you right-click wherever it is you think you would normally want to. And you can even add temporary items to those lists. So if you wanted to add a item to a drop-down list, you can do that. But be careful, because when you add to one of those built-in command bars, unless you make that a temporary addition, using that temporary property of both the command bar or the command bar controls, then that new control will become a permanent part of that Access database. Okay. Okay. And this was just to reiterate: runtime menus are a real challenge. Okay. So what I did, because I was tired of building these things by hand and going back to 2003 and importing them, I created what I call the Access Shortcut Tool. This application is free for download. It's out on my website, which is listed in the resources at the back of the presentation here. And you can download it. About every 20th use of it, you'll get a little pop-up message that says, says something about, hey, would you like to donate? You can ignore that message if you want, or you can, if you like it and you use it. I accept donations of any amount, and that link will take you to PayPal to donate whatever, $1, $5, $10, whatever you want. this is what the shortcut tool looks like when it's run. It's easy to install. It does not require admin permissions. That's one of the downsides of a lot of Access applications. When you install them, is they require admin permissions to install it. But the way I've got it written is all you have to do is download the app, copy it into a folder, run it, and when you run it the first time, it checks to see whether some values that are in one of the tables in the database match with its current location, and if not, it updates those values so that it knows that it's pointing to the current database. Then you go to the Access application, and I'm going to go ahead and go on over here and show you how to do that. So you go to Database Tools, Add-ins. In this case, we're going to add it. We're going to do the Add-in Manager because we want to add it. If in this particular case, I have a whole bunch of different test databases and other things in the folder where I normally place these. So you can pick one of those, or you can do Add New, and you can go browse to wherever you saved it. Generally, when I do this, I save them in my app data roaming folder under Microsoft Add-ins. That works great in Office 2000, in Windows 2007, and for some iterations of Office 2010. Other iterations of Office 2010, you have to go to, I think it's like Program Files, Root, something else, and I need to look that up and put that in this briefing so that to make it easier for you to actually do that. But you can see where all those files are loaded here. If I wanted to pull one of those in, I could just click on that and just install, and it would be loaded. So in this case, you'll see that I already have the Access Shortcut tool and my linked table manager running in this installation. To launch the application, once you've added it to this, through the Add-in Manager, once you've added it here, all you have to do is come over here again to the Add-ins tab, or the button. And keep in mind, that is not the same as the Add-ins tab on the ribbon. So we're in the Database Tools, Database Tools section of that, and then in the Add-ins, you launch the Access Shortcut tool. And the first thing it does is it goes through and creates a catalog of all of the shortcut, or all of the command bars that are in your current application. And it tells you what the index is of that command bar, what the name of it is, whether it's built in or not, the position property, and the type. Basically, what you're really most interested in is you're interested in pop-up command bars. The menu bar is just that. It's the main menu that was on the old 2003 databases. And so what you're interested in is the pop-up there. I have several options that are available. One of which is a checkbox that says, "What's this menu control?" which helps you determine what shortcut menu you're looking at. And then it decides, it gives you the opportunity to, do you want to catalog all of the modules that are in your database? The reason you might want to do that is if you're going to call a function from your a privately or a custom built command bar menu or control, then you might want to catalog all of those functions and procedures that are in your application, so that you'll know whether or not that function already exists or not when you use it. And then there's a couple of other settings here, most of which are not a real big deal. The one I use most is the catalog. You can do the catalog on startup, so as soon as the application is launched, it runs. You can do it the first time. You can set it to never do the catalog, in which case it won't tell you whether or not those procedures are available or not when you do it. In this case, we'll just close this. Another one of the major features of it is a filter, so you can show all command bars, in which case this has got the 200 plus command bars shown. You can filter it for your own shortcut menus to display just the ones that you've created, the ones that are not built in. You can actually, if you want to do, for example, if you want to look for all command bars that include the term datasheet, you can filter on those. So if you know you're working in a data sheet and you're trying to decide what command bar you want to use or you might want to use when doing things, you can do those types of things. When you select one, in this case, I'm going to get rid of that and I'm going to go to preview. Because what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about existing command bars. So we looked briefly at what's available when you click on a single form. You can click on the header, the top up there. You can click on a control down here, this text box, and you get different options. If you pick on a date one, you get different options. When you right click on the record selector, you get options. Like I said, that little in the options of the command bar tool or the access shortcut tool, it has an option to display the what's this menu. And what that does is it goes through each of the command bars and adds this control to it at the bottom. So you can click on it and it will tell you specifically what command bar you're looking at. So now you know if you want to manipulate something with regard to the records selector command bar, now you know what that looks like in this particular form. In a data sheet, that's going to be different. Let's see here. In a data sheet, that command, oh, you know what? That's not going to show up here because I've got the shortcut tool loaded. And when I loaded the shortcut tool and selected that row, it hides that right-click menu. So that's one of the disadvantages of enabling or disabling one of the built-in menus is that if you try to go do something else, you might not not be able to use it. In this case, it doesn't disable those, but I did disable the that datasheet row selector menu. So one of the biggest reasons like I said, that I don't like the standard shortcut menus is that if we go up here, I can always go to design view, and I don't want that. I don't want my users to be able to do that. If I'm opening a report, I don't want them to see the design view and layout view and all of that. I want them to see my specific list of things that they should be able to do within their application. So to do that, there's a couple ways you can do that. And as you see, I just minimized the shortcut tool earlier, so it kind of sits down there in the bottom corner on top of other things. And you can see, let me go back to that report real quickly, make sure I've got the right one. Open this. And when I right-click on the report, I want to know what this is. And that's interesting. That says form view pop-up. That doesn't make much sense, does it? Open. Form view pop-up. That's strange. That should, oh, you know what? This is another one of the downsides. I opened that in report view, not print preview. What I really wanted to do was open that in print preview. And under print preview, now when I do this, these are all the options I have for that report. I don't want, like I said, I don't want them to see all of those. So I want to know what this is. This is the print preview pop-up. So I can go to the print preview pop-up shortcut here, and these are all of those items that are by default in that pop-up menu. At this point, I can create a copy of this menu and name it, and we'll do Dale's demo. And I'm going to make this temporary because when I close Access, I want this to go away. And then when you do that, it adds that command bar, but because the indexes associated with the each of the command bars, they're dynamic, they change. This is something I found out. You would think that it would just automatically add it to the end of the command bar list, but if you remember, there was an option in the when I did the, go back here to the command bar, adding a command bar. You'll remember there was a position option. So when I create the command bar, I can tell it where I want it in the command bar's collection. Because of that, the way I do it, the shortcut tool, is I automatically reload that command bar's collection so that I know exactly where that new item I created was. And now if I go to show all my command bars, excuse me, here's the Dale demo one with all of those different options. Now, at this point, you can do a number of things. You can preview what this looks like in a pop-up or in a shortcut menu. You can edit one of these by clicking the edit control over here, or you can delete one of these. So, for example, I don't want the report view in here. One of the things I realized this morning as I was going through here is that this can be annoying. I need to modify this pop-up so that it's not just a regular message box, but is actually a custom pop-up so that I can check the box that says, don't display this if again. So in this case, I could just click yes, and it would delete that one. I've already done that with a bunch of these different controls in this particular menu that I created. And this gives you the ability to quickly look at those items. And then now if I do a preview, that didn't work. I don't know what caused that. We'll have to look at that. But if I do that on this one, it works properly. So we'll go here. You'll see that shortcut menu that's displayed here. So once you've done that, then you can go back to your report. Or minimize this in design view and set that report's shortcut menu bar property. And what it'll do is it'll list all of the it will list all of the custom shortcut menus that are in this application. And this list is slightly different than what you saw when I actually launched the app and displayed it over here. When I look at my menus, I only see 3 of them. This menu here actually is showing me not only those 3, the top one, this one, and the bottom one that I created inside this application, but it's also showing me the shortcut menus that are part of the Access Shortcut tool. So you have to, I tend to give the shortcut menus that I build in my admin, or I'm sorry, in my add-ins, I give them a prefix that makes it clear to me that those aren't part of this application. They're part of the shortcut tool in this case. So once I've done that, I can select the menu bar I want, and we'll pick Dale's report menu. That's the one I did earlier today. Right click, print preview, and now when I click on it, I don't have to worry about them having the ability to go to design view or layout view. I can specifically identify what export features, what functionality I want. I can identify the send to, whether I want to do send to or not, etc. Okay. Okay, so the other feature that what I need to do is I need to talk about building new command or shortcut menus. Now, like I said, you can copy a shortcut menu that already exists, which is handy for if you're going to be working in a report, for example, and you want, or in the print preview mode of a report, and you want the standard set of stuff, you can import all of those.
Hey Dale.
Yes.
Your audio is starting to break up just a little bit. I don't know if you can.
Okay, yeah, yours is too.
Oh, maybe
Yours is
it's
too.
maybe
Okay,
it's
do you want
my
me to dial
internet
back
connection. No, I just want you to check.
It's not Dawn. Dawn is perfectly, sounds like she's
Dale
next
is?
to me.
Okay. All right, Dale, you're good then. It must be me. Sorry.
No.
Okay.
Dawn, I can hear you perfectly. I hear Dale broken up.
Oh, wait.
I heard Dale break up too.
Juan is me. So you can hear Maria or Juan?
Oh, Juan. Yeah, I can hear
Yeah.
Juan. Yes, Juan, I can hear you perfectly.
But Dale is breaking up?
Yes, affirmative.
Okay. Try speaking again for a second, Dale.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
That's good.
Better. That's better. Okay.
That's better? Okay.
Sorry,
All
go
right.
ahead.
I'll
I
just
just
hold
want to
the
make
phone.
sure we get the best
just
recording
hold-
we can here. So.
Okay. That
I
works
have
fine.
here in Germany also
So,
no problems here.
Awesome.
Great. So, for example, you could copy this. You could copy the original print preview menu over here. You could go through and delete the items you don't want, and then you can add items. So, in this case, I'm gonna create a new one. I'm gonna start from scratch though, and I'm gonna start from scratch for a shortcut to, or for a right-click menu for a text box. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to name this a text box. I'm going to go to next. Okay, so before you start moving on, a lot of times what I will do is I'll do like I did before, and I'm going to go look for a command bar where it contains a control. I'm sorry, the command bar contains the name control, because there's a form view control shortcut menu which contains 150 different items. Notice how we talked about this before, where when you clicked into a text box that was a date, it listed date options. If you click into one that's has numeric options, this one's got, an infinite number of options to it. But one of the things that it doesn't have is it doesn't have a zoom feature. I assume everybody knows what a zoom feature is, which basically opens up the zoom window so that you can expand the text that's in a text box that may be too small to display, for example, a memo field. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add to this, and because this is a built-in menu, I'm going to add a temporary item. I'm going to go to the built-in office items. Then I'm going to, and instead of adding a caption up here, I am going to add the caption. No, I won't. I'm going to put it down here. I want to filter this list that's showing up here by zoom. And what you'll find is that depending on the context, there's a bunch of different options for zoom within the database, within the Access application. This is within the Access application. And this morning, what I did was I went through and I actually tested all of these that are defined as buttons. I didn't test this pop-up one. I didn't test the combo box. Probably should have tested the combo box. And what I found was that that most of these in a form, they are out of context and they don't get enabled. But the one that does get enabled is this one here. So I'm going to add it. By clicking the next button, and then it's going to insert it at the bottom of this menu, and you'll see it way down here. Now, I can click on that, and I can use up-down buttons to move it within the command bar. But for this particular demo, I'm not going to do that. So now if I close that and go back here to my single form, and we can, let's just assume that there was a lot of text in this text box. If I right-click on this, now you'll see that I have a zoom option, and it opens up the zoom window, which I could change the font on to make it easier to read. You know, whatever the case may be. And since this is a rich text field, there's all sorts of other options that you can do in there as well. But so now you can see how easy it is to add a control to a built-in menu. I added that one as a temporary control. So if I close Access and open this back up again, that right-click item isn't going to be there. That zoom item will not be there the next time I come in here unless I modify. I write some code to do that for me. And the easiest way to do that is if I right-click on here, I have a menu. There's a right-click menu, which should pop up. Oh, man, what's going on here? Let's see if it is. So, okay, let's try this again. Let's drop out of that and come back into it because I think I lost the reference that I had in there. Quantity control. There. Now, if I right-click on that record selector, I get the option to script that control, and the application will actually create the script necessary to add this to your code. For example, you could copy all of this, right? Copy it, and then paste it into a code module, so that the next time you load the application, you can run this code, and it'll add that zoom option to your text box control bar. The other thing that we didn't talk about is you can create your own. And again, it's going to run through the command bars collection to make sure all the indexes are set properly. And now if I want to add a control, I can either select Office, which is what we did before, in which case these are all of the different controls. Notice, remember, I talked before, there's 200 plus command bars, but on that there's over 800 controls that are listed on those. And you'll see similar controls like we saw before about Zoom. There's 2 different controls for ActiveX controls. You know, you can go through here and just browse through these. You know, there's a couple for back and a couple for average. So you may have to, if you're going to use the built-in Office command bars and the controls that are in those, you may have to play around to find out whether you've picked the right one or not. The other option is that you can create your own custom controls. And I'm just going to say this is we're just going to call this one Hello World. And we're going to make it a button. And it's going to be permanent. We want it to be visible. We want it to be enabled. We have options here so that you can position it within the list of controls that are in this command bar. If you want to add a face to it, an image that goes with it, you can click on Access or pick one of the other Office objects. I've collected most of the images from Office objects, and so you can use pretty much any one of them. But for example, if you wanted to use Access, then you can go down here and just scroll through the list. We're just going to pick Access Database. You can preview what that looks like, and here you'll see the little Access icon. You click on Next. That takes you to the top part of this. Again, is what we were already looking at. The critical piece that you really need to know about here is the on-action feature, because this is what defines what function is going to get run or what procedure will be run when you actually click on that item. In this case, we're going to call function hello world. And for the ease of use, the best way to do this is to configure this with an equal sign in the front and make it a function rather than a procedure. You can call procedures, but the syntax here is a little bit more complicated when you call a subroutine instead of a function. So it's just easier to do this. Now, if I was going to do a menu that contains several different options, maybe I want to be able to launch several different forms from on the same menu. I could put in the form name here, and up here I could just put in open form or function open form, and then I would have put the form name here in the parameter, and the tag is basically just like any other tag, and the tooltip text is the same as what you would normally expect for tooltips. So when you mouse over the item, it displays some text. But for this purposes of this demo, I'm just going to do the function hello world, and we'll finish it. And because I didn't catalog all of the functions that are in the application at the beginning when I loaded the app, it's telling me that function doesn't exist. It's just a reminder, and that's I put that there just to remind you to do that. So now if I go back over here, go to my code window and do add to this, I'm going to add a function. Okay, so now I've got that function. I can assign that shortcut menu. So if I wanted to, let's go to here, and I want to assign that menu to the shortcut menu of this particular object or control. I can do that when I open this form and right-click in there. I'm going to get the Hello World shortcut menu item, and I'll get my own function. You can make that function, those functions as complex as you want. I actually use that functionality within my help button here. I've got a couple of different options here. Each of these is its own shortcut menu. Each of these, pops up something about the application, and it just calls those functions and launches the code behind those. All right, Maria, that pretty much ends my demo. Does anybody have any questions?
Before people ask questions, and I do invite you to either type your questions in the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself in a semi-orderly manner and ask them personally, please go ahead. I did just want to iterate, we actually have quite a few people online here today. We've got 19 people, Dale, so that's awesome. But we did have people trickling in later than the usual start. So if you missed the beginning, or I actually saw someone just add, maybe they got the hours mixed up. We are recording this, and so hopefully within a week or so, we will have this available for you to view online through our website and YouTube channel. So don't worry if you missed something. Okay, go ahead. Questions, anyone? I don't see any in chat yet, but feel free to ask. Let me post the website and YouTube.
I can go back over here, scroll down.
There's the website, and there's a videos link in that that
And
will list.
these are,
Go ahead.
are you talking about what you posted in the chat?
Yes.
Mario?
Yes.
Okay.
So I posted a link to the usergroups.org.lunch,
Gotcha.
and then you would select videos. I'm going to get to the YouTube channel in a minute, but go ahead, Dale.
I was just going to say, I'll send you this, or if you want me, so that you can add it to the web page for today's meeting, and this database. I'll send this PowerPoint slide, and downloading the app is as simple as going to you can go to the shortcut tool here. That'll take you right to the website where you can download it. There are versions for both 32 and 64-bit because it is a ACCDE file. So you need to make sure that you get the version that matches your office business. That's all I have.
Yeah, if you want to send me the PowerPoint, Dale, I can also post it on the blog portion of our user group.
Yeah, that's what I was going to do. I was going to send it to you.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I'll do that.
Okay. Yep. Great. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it, and I encourage you, if you're interested, go out there and use it. It's pretty simple to use. I do occasionally hear from somebody or other that there might be a bug here or there. I know I just received a phone call the other day from a guy that's running Office 365 who said he was having problems with some aspect of it. But instead of when I asked him to email me with more details and information, he failed to do that. So I wasn't able to dig into it any deeper. I was hoping he would send me some screenshots and that kind of thing. But if you have any issues at all, please, email me. My email address is in the About screen. You can just click on Shortcut Tool at Dev Solutions, and it'll come directly to me. And I encourage you to use it. And if you have questions, call me or email me.
Awesome. This has been terrific, Dale. Thank you so much. It does look like we do have one question. We have a question. Selecting the form option to disable right-click shortcut will not affect custom command bars. Is that true?
I'm looking at, let me read this. Selecting the form option.
And David, if you want to unmute and clarify, you're welcome to do so as well.
Okay, yeah, what I was just asking was, earlier on, you showed us in the form property sheets, yes, where it says shortcut menu, when you take the shortcut menu and say no, what effect does that have on, if any, on the custom command bars?
Let me first off figure out where it was I put that.
Please.
Let's add it here. So I added that to here, and as you can see, I'm right-clicking now. So that's the downside of disabling when you disable it, it's disabled. I can't click on the form. I can't click on the form header. I can't click on the record selector. I can click there, but it doesn't do anything. So if I open this back up again and change that to yes, and leave it as yes, and I make sure this is set to display that shortcut menu, it will do that. So the answer to your question is, when you disable it when you set at the form level, when you set the shortcut menu to no, it disables all of the shortcut menus on that form, which is why part of the reason I did this. Now I do have, and I forgot to add it here. There are, if we go back here to the shortcut tool, somewhere, here's one that doesn't have a name. I have yet been able to figure out how to really reference that. It doesn't, you would think it would be very simple to do that one. But basically, and I also haven't, if you do this, if you do a what's this menu on the frame of the form, it doesn't tell you what that menu is. It doesn't have a caption to it. So calling it is difficult. One of the things I was going to, there's a couple of other ways to institute right-click menus, and those articles that are listed on the back page of the PowerPoint briefing. One of them talks about using shortcut menus in a runtime environment. And in a runtime environment, you can do this. You can assign a shortcut menu right here, just like this. Or another way you can create a shortcut menu or use a shortcut menu is you might use a button click event, in which case you would go back and do the let's see here, somewhere in here I displayed how to do that. Let's see, show pop-up. Here we go, right here, show pop-up, the show pop-up method. You can use that method. You can use that method of the command bar, like in a click event of a button, which is exactly what I did in the help button here. I just used the click event of this to pop up that shortcut menu that I want to display. But there is a line of code that I've got listed on my blog on my website that talks about how to disable the shortcut menu for the form. This basically this one that shows up here, and on the title of the reports as well. So you can get rid of those menu bars using that technique. Basically what I do is I suggest when you do that you use the form load event to disable that command bar, and then you use the form unload event to re-enable it, because like every other command bar, once it's disabled, it stays disabled until you enable it. So you don't want to do that intentionally and then not undo it. So that's the downside of changing the enabled property of the built-in command bar, is it can have a very detrimental effect on your application. And in that case, it's not just your application, it's all of your Access applications, because when you mess with the built-in ones, you're messing with Access. When you mess with custom design command bars, they stay resident in your local Access database.
Good to know.
Okay.
Good to know. Hey, we do need to wrap it up here because we're over by 4 minutes. But thank you again so much for giving this presentation. It's been wonderful and very informative. Hopefully everyone learned a little something. And I also invite the rest of you to join us next month. Next month, we're going to have another guest speaker, and that will be Peter Cole. He is the director of Theme My Database, and he's going to talk to us about the VB Watchdog error handler from Everything Access. So again, I believe it's another free tool, and he'll tell us about how to use it. So please join us next month. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Maria.
Thanks, Dale.